He stood before 100 of their friends, family, and the city's elite, raising a champagne flute to his new perfect bride. With a smug grin, he glanced at his ex-wife Alara seated in the back and made a toast to his upgrade. He mocked the simple life she now lived, the dreams she'd abandoned for him, and the woman she'd become. The room filled with polite, knowing laughter. What he didn't know was that the woman he was publicly humiliating was on the verge of signing a contract that would redefine power in their city. While he was celebrating his wedding, she was about to close a deal that would make his entire fortune look like pocket change. This is the story of how one night of humiliation became the catalyst for the ultimate revenge, monumental success. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. It wasn't just an invitation. It was a statement. Thick cream-colored cardstock with the names Ethan Hayes and Tiffany Sterling embossed in shimmering rose gold foil. It felt heavy in Alara Vance's hands, heavy with the weight of 5 years of a life she had meticulously built, and then just as meticulously dismantled for him. She traced the sharp, elegant calligraphy. The wedding was to be held at the St. Regis in Manhattan, a place she and Ethan had once dreamed of celebrating their own 10th anniversary. Now he was celebrating his new beginning there with a woman whose father, Marcus Sterling, owned half of the tech real estate in the tri-state area. Alara and Ethan's story had started like a Silicon Valley fairy tale. They met at Stanford. She was a prodigy in computational linguistics on a fast track to a PhD, and he was a charismatic MBA student with a knack for seeing market trends. He was captivated by her brilliance, her ability to see patterns in data that others missed. She was charmed by his ambition and the way he made her feel like the center of the universe. "We're a team, Ellie." He'd always set his hand on the small of her back. "You're the brains, I'm the face. Together, we'll build an empire." She believed him. When his startup idea, a niche B2B software solution, started gaining traction, he asked her to take a leave of absence from her doctorate program. "Just for a year, Ellie. To help me get this off the ground. Your research is theoretical. This is real-world impact." 1 year became 2, then 3. Her name was never on the company letterhead, but her algorithms were its backbone. Her market analysis dictated their strategy. She was the ghost in his machine, the silent partner who powered his meteoric rise. He became Ethan Hayes, the visionary founder of Apex Solutions. She remained Alara Vance, his brilliant, supportive wife who handled things behind the scenes. Then came the sale of Apex for $80 million. Ethan was a star. He was featured in Forbes, lauded as a genius. In interviews, he thanked my wife for her unwavering support. The word support felt like a dagger. It was the word you used for someone who made coffee and picked up dry cleaning, not for the architect of the entire enterprise. With the money came a new circle of friends, a new lifestyle, and a new woman. Tiffany Sterling was everything Alara wasn't. She was polished, poised, and came from old money. She didn't challenge Ethan. She adorned him. The divorce was quiet but brutal. He called her unambitious. "Look at you, Ellie. You're 32, and what have you done? You don't even have your degree. I've moved on to bigger things. You're still here." His gaslighting was so effective she almost believed him. He gave her a generous settlement of $5 million, and their modest Palo Alto home, framing it as a gift rather than the pittance it was compared to her contribution. For the first year, Alara drifted. The woman who once wrote code that could predict market fluctuations with 98% accuracy now had trouble deciding what to buy at the grocery store. The mockery in Ethan's voice echoed in her quiet house. She was a ghost in her own life. But brilliance, even when suppressed, doesn't simply vanish. It smolders. One rainy afternoon, sorting through old university papers, she found her doctoral thesis proposal. It was an idea she'd had years ago, a concept so far ahead of its time that her own professors had called it theoretically fascinating but practically impossible. It was a dynamic, self-learning logistics network, an AI that could not only manage a supply chain, but predict and neutralize disruptions before they even happened. She called it Project Chimera. For the next 2 years, that project became her entire world. She sold the Palo Alto house, moved into a small nondescript apartment in San Jose, and poured almost every cent of her settlement into building a prototype. She hired two of the brightest young coders she could find working out of a rented office space above a laundromat. They knew her only as Ms. Vance, a quiet, intensely focused woman who seemed to subsist on black coffee and sheer force of will. Chimera was no longer impossible. With the advancements in machine learning and quantum computing, it was revolutionary. It had the potential to upend global shipping, manufacturing, and retail trillions of dollars of industry. She knew it, and so did a few very quiet, very powerful people she'd begun demonstrating it to, which brought her back to the invitation. Her first instinct was to burn it. Why would she subject herself to this public spectacle of her replacement? Her therapist, Dr. Miller, had a different take. Closure, Alara. You're not going for him. You're going for you. To see the cage you escaped from and to quietly for yourself recognize the woman you've become since. So she RSVP'd yes. She picked out a simple, elegant navy blue dress, understated but confident. As she packed her small overnight bag for the flight to New York, she also packed her laptop. She had a final stage virtual meeting scheduled for later that night with a potential investor. It was a long shot, a huge reclusive European conglomerate known for making bold, decisive moves. They were notoriously difficult, but if they bit, it would change everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lead programmer, Ben. The final simulation is perfect. The algorithm is practically singing. You built something incredible, Alara. A small, genuine smile touched her lips for the first time that day. She was no longer just Ethan Hayes' ex-wife. She was the architect of Chimera. And as she walked out the door to catch her flight, she felt a sliver of power she hadn't felt in years. She wasn't walking into her past. She was walking through it on the way to her future, the St. Regis Ballroom was a symphony of excess. Towering floral arrangements of white orchids and roses scented the air, their fragrance mingling with the expensive perfumes of the guests. A string quartet played softly in the corner as waiters in crisp tuxedos navigated the crowd with trays of champagne and caviar blinis. It was a world away from her 20-hour workdays in the sterile, fluorescent-lit office in San Jose. Alara found her assigned table in the back, tucked away near the service entrance, a clear afterthought. She was seated with a distant cousin of Ethan's and a few of his old college friends who offered her tight, pitying smiles. They made small talk, carefully avoiding the billion-dollar elephant in the room, the man at the head table glowing with triumph. Ethan looked like a king in his custom Tom Ford tuxedo. He was laughing, one arm draped possessively around Tiffany, who was breathtaking in a Vera Wang gown that shimmered with thousands of hand-sewn crystals. She was perfect, an immaculate porcelain doll. Every time Ethan looked at her, it was with a look of smug satisfaction, the look of a man who believed he had acquired the rarest piece in a collection. Alara focused on her water glass, trying to be a ghost, a fly on the wall. But she couldn't help but overhear the snippets of conversation around her. "Can you believe he invited her, a woman with a severe blonde bob?" whispered at the next table. "It's so awkward. I heard he did it to be magnanimous," her companion snickered. "More like he wanted a front-row seat to her misery. She really let herself go after the divorce." Each word was a small paper cut. Alara steeled herself, repeating Dr. Miller's words in her head. "You are here for you. This is not your life anymore." The dinner service was a blur of exquisite tiny portions of food she barely tasted. Finally, the clinking of a glass quieted the room. Ethan's best man, his old business partner, gave a bland, predictable speech. Then Marcus Sterling, the father of the bride, took the stage. His speech was less of a toast and more of a corporate merger announcement, speaking of the powerful alliance between the Hayes and Sterling families. Then Ethan stood up. He held his champagne flute high, his eyes sweeping the room before landing deliberately on Alara. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. "I want to thank you all for being here," he began, his voice smooth and confident. "And I want to thank my beautiful bride, Tiffany. You have brought a light into my life that I didn't know was missing." He paused for effect, letting the room awe on cue. "You know," he continued, his gaze still fixed on Alara, "they say you learn from your past relationships. And it's true. My first marriage taught me an incredible amount. It taught me about potential, about the difference between a comfortable starting point and a truly ambitious destination." The air in the room shifted. It was no longer a wedding toast. It was a public execution. Alara felt hundreds of pairs of eyes turned towards her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her expression remained a mask of calm neutrality. "It taught me that while support is wonderful, a partner who elevates you, who challenges you to conquer worlds, is the real prize. My life with Apex Solutions, that was Act 1. It was a great little opening act. But my life with Tiffany, with the Sterling family, this is the main event." He raised his glass higher. "So I'd like to propose a toast. First to my wife, my partner, my ultimate upgrade in every sense of the word, Tiffany." The room applauded as he kissed his bride. Then he turned back, his voice dripping with condescending pity. "And a toast to Alara. Thank you for the lessons, and I sincerely wish you all the best in whatever it is you're doing now in that little apartment in San Jose. I hope you find your own Act 1 someday, to the past and to leaving it exactly where it belongs." A wave of polite, uncomfortable laughter rippled through the ballroom. His friends from the head table laughed the loudest. It was a perfectly crafted insult designed to showcase him as a powerful man who had outgrown his simple starter wife, while simultaneously painting her as a small, forgotten relic. For a split second the world tilted. Alara felt the sting of 1,000 betrayals the late nights she'd worked on his code. The academic conferences she'd skipped to support his networking, the brilliant ideas she'd fed him over dinner that he presented as his own the next day. All of it reduced to a punchline. But then something inside her snapped. The humiliation didn't break her. It cauterized a wound she hadn't realized was still festering. The last lingering thread of affection or nostalgia for the man he once was, or the man she thought he was, evaporated. In its place was a cold, clean clarity. She didn't storm out. She didn't cry. She simply picked up her clutch, met the gaze of a few of the pitying onlookers with a steady, unreadable expression, and stood. She walked, not ran towards the exit, her back perfectly straight. She didn't look back at him. He no longer deserved even a glance. As the heavy ballroom doors swung shut behind her, muffling the sound of the band striking up a cheerful tune, she felt a profound sense of release. He thought he had won. He thought he had delivered the final crushing blow. He had no idea he had just handed her the one thing she hadn't been able to give herself, the absolute, unequivocal freedom from his memory. She stepped out into the cool Manhattan night, took a deep breath of the city air, and pulled out her phone. She didn't call a friend to cry. She didn't book a flight home. She opened a secure messaging app and typed a single sentence to a contact labeled A.G. Leeson. "I'm available sooner than expected. Is Mr. Croft still on for tonight?" The reply came back in less than 10 seconds. "He is. The car will be at your hotel in 20 minutes. He's looking forward to it." Ethan Hayes was celebrating his past. Alara Vance was about to seize her future. The black Mercedes S-Class slid silently to the curb outside the boutique hotel Alara had booked, a deliberate choice to avoid any chance of running into wedding guests. The driver, a stoic man in a dark suit, held the door for her without a word. The interior was a cocoon of polished wood and soft leather, insulated from the blare of New York City. As the car pulled away, Alara leaned her head back against the seat, the echoes of the ballroom fading. The pitying stares, the cruel laughter, Ethan's smug face. It all felt like a scene from someone else's life. Her focus was crystalline. All the nervous energy, the hurt, the anger, it had been transmuted into pure cold adrenaline. She opened her laptop. The sleek device, her portal to Chimera, glowed in the dim light of the cabin. She ran through the presentation one last time, not out of anxiety, but out of habit. A pilot running a pre-flight check. The data was flawless. The simulations were perfect. The technology was undeniable. The only variable was the human element. The car journeyed deep into the heart of the financial district, stopping before a skyscraper that seemed to pierce the low-hanging clouds. There was no grand corporate logo on the building, only a discreet brushed steel plaque that read, Ethelred Global. Ethelred was a legend, a ghost in the corporate world. It was a sprawling, privately held conglomerate with holdings in everything from deep-sea mining to satellite technology. They were known for two things: their uncanny ability to predict the next seismic shift in technology and their utterly reclusive CEO, Julian Croft. Croft was an enigma. He never gave interviews, was rarely photographed, and ran his multi-billion-dollar empire with the precision of a chess grandmaster. He was known to invest in people as much as ideas, and his vetting process was notoriously intense. To even get a meeting was a victory. To get one in person at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night was unheard of. Ilara was met in the silent marble lobby by a woman with a severe haircut and an impeccably tailored suit. "Ms. Vance, I'm Amelia. Mr. Croft is ready for you." They rode a private elevator that moved with unnerving speed and silence, opening directly into the penthouse office. The space was not what she expected. There were no mahogany desks or ostentatious displays of wealth. It was a vast, minimalist expanse with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a 360-degree view of the glittering Manhattan skyline. The only furniture was a simple, low-slung sofa, 2 chairs, and a large, dark wooden table in the center of the room. A man stood by the window, his back to her, looking out at the city. He was tall and lean, dressed in a simple dark sweater and trousers. When he turned, she was struck by his eyes. They were a pale, piercing blue, and they seemed to see everything. This was Julian Croft. "Ms. Vance," he said, his voice a quiet baritone with a faint British accent. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Thank you for the opportunity," Mr. Croft. Ilara replied, her voice steady. He gestured to the table. "No formalities, no PowerPoint, just you, me, and the idea. I've read your white paper. I've had my tech teams in Zurich run every simulation they can on the data you provided. They say what you've built is impossible. They say it's a decade ahead of schedule." "They're right about the second part," Ilara said, a flicker of a smile on her face. He matched her smile, a brief, sharp expression. "I like that. Confidence, not arrogance. There's a difference. My team tells me the code is elegant, self-correcting in a way they've never seen. They tell me the potential market disruption is incalculable. What they can't tell me is about the architect. Who are you, Ilara Vance?" This was the real test. He didn't ask about her credentials or her business plan. He asked who she was. She didn't tell him about Ethan, about Apex Solutions, about the humiliation she had just endured. That was the story of the woman she used to be. She told him about her fascination with complex systems, about the moment she realized that the global supply chain was a living, chaotic organism that could be understood and tamed. She spoke of the years of solitary work, the failures, the breakthroughs. She spoke not as a victim, but as a creator. She opened her laptop, and for the next hour she walked him through Chimera. She didn't just show him code, she showed him its soul. She ran a simulation based on a real-world event, the 2021 Suez Canal obstruction. She demonstrated how Chimera, with its predictive analytics, would have rerouted hundreds of ships weeks in advance, anticipating the bottleneck based on minute deviations in maritime traffic and weather patterns, saving billions of dollars in a matter of hours. Croft listened, interjecting with sharp, insightful questions that showed a deep understanding of the technology. He wasn't just a businessman, he was a builder. "You've created a central nervous system for global commerce," he said, finally leaning back in his chair, his blue eyes boring into her. "And you've done it essentially alone on a shoestring budget with a team of 2 recent graduates." "Passion is a powerful resource," Ilara stated simply. "Indeed it is. But it doesn't scale. You need infrastructure, data centers, a global sales force, security. You're at the end of your runway, Ms. Vance. You know it, and I know it. You've come to us for a seed round. Series A funding. The standard pitch. He stood up and walked back to the window. Ilara's heart sank slightly. Was he dismissing her? Ethelred Global doesn't do standard, he said, turning back to face her. The lights of the city framed him like a halo. We don't plant acorns and wait for them to grow. We buy forests. He paused, letting the statement hang in the air. We're not interested in a Series A investment, Ms. Vance. We are prepared tonight to make a formal offer to acquire Vance Innovations and the Chimera project in its entirety. Ilara's breath caught in her throat. This was not what she had expected. An acquisition was the endgame, something she'd dreamed of years down the line. My team has prepared the paperwork, Croft continued as if discussing the weather. The offer is for a full cash and equity buyout. We will provide all the resources, all the infrastructure you need. You will be named CEO of the new Ethelred Logistics Division with full autonomy to develop Chimera to its ultimate potential. We build the playground. You provide the magic. He slid a sleek, dark tablet across the table. On the screen, a single document was displayed. Ilara's eyes scanned the text, her mind racing to process the legal jargon. Then she saw the number at the bottom of the page. She had to read it twice to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. It wasn't a venture capital investment of 10 or 20 million. It wasn't even the $100 million valuation she had secretly hoped for in her wildest dreams. The offer was for $1.2 billion. $1, $200, $1,000. She stared at the number, and in her mind's eye she saw Ethan's face contorted in that smug, mocking grin as he toasted her little life. She thought of the $5 million generous settlement. She thought of the years she had spent making him successful only to be discarded. A single silent tear escaped and traced a path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness or of anger. It was a tear of overwhelming, earth-shattering vindication. Julian Croft watched her, his expression unreadable. Is there a problem? Ms. Vance Ilara looked up from the tablet, her eyes clear and shining with a newfound fire. She wiped the tear away with the back of her hand. No, Mr. Croft, she said, her voice completely even. There is no problem at all. She picked up the stylus. With a steady hand she placed her digital signature on the line. The ink flowed, a simple scrawl of a name that was now worth over $1 billion. As the signature was accepted with a quiet chime, she felt the last chains of her old life fall away. She wasn't just free. She was powerful. And the world was about to find out. Ilara left the Ethelred building just before 1 a.m. The city was quieter now, the air holding the specific stillness of the early morning hours. She didn't take the waiting car back to her hotel. She chose to walk. The crisp night air felt good on her face, a stark contrast to the stuffy opulence of the wedding and the sterile, high-stakes atmosphere of Croft's office. Each step on the pavement felt different. The city lights seemed brighter, the buildings taller. She was seeing the world through new eyes, the eyes of a woman who had just had her entire reality fundamentally rewritten. A billionaire. The title felt alien, absurd. She wasn't Ilara Vance, the scorned ex-wife. She wasn't Ilara Vance, the struggling startup founder. She was Ilara Vance, the new CEO of Ethelred Logistics. She stopped at a 24-hour diner, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and the smell of old coffee. She ordered a black coffee and a slice of apple pie. As she sat there anonymous among the city's night owls, a slow, genuine smile spread across her face. It was the first truly happy, unburdened smile she'd had in years. The deal wasn't just about the money, it was the validation. Julian Croft hadn't seen Ethan Hayes' discarded wife. He had seen a brilliant architect of technology and handed her the keys to an empire. Meanwhile, 30 blocks north, the wedding reception for Ethan and Tiffany Hayes was winding down. The last of the guests were departing, leaving behind a trail of wilting flowers and empty champagne glasses. Ethan was on top of the world. He had his trophy wife, the blessing of her powerful father, and he had delivered a public coup de grace to the ghost of his past. He felt invincible. He and Tiffany retired to the presidential suite, a sprawling space overlooking Central Park. As Tiffany went to slip into something more comfortable, Ethan, still buzzing from the champagne and his own ego, checked his phone. He scrolled through the fawning text messages from his friends. "Man, that toast was brutal. Legendary. You really put her in her place. Classy. Welcome to the big leagues, my friend." He grinned, pouring himself a final glass of whiskey. Everything was perfect. He was falling into a deep, satisfied sleep when the first tremors of the earthquake that would shatter his world began. It started with a single email notification at 4:15 a.m. from a Wall Street Journal news alert. The subject line was stark: Ethelred Global makes shock 1.2B acquisition of mystery AI logistics firm Vance Innovations. Ethan's blood ran cold. Vance Innovations. It had to be a coincidence. Some other Vance. He clicked the link, his hand shaking slightly. The first line of the article hit him like a physical blow. In a stunning late-night move that has sent ripples through the tech and logistics sectors, the notoriously reclusive Ethelred Global, helmed by Julian Croft, has acquired the entirety of Vance Innovations, a stealth-mode startup founded by computational linguistics expert Ilara Vance. Ilara Vance. His Ilara. He read on his breath catching in his chest. The article detailed the revolutionary nature of the Chimera project, calling it the holy grail of supply chain management. It quoted anonymous sources from Ethelred calling it the most elegant and disruptive piece of code we have seen this century. And then there was the photo. It was a recent picture of Ilara, one he'd never seen. She was looking directly at the camera, her expression calm, confident, and utterly devoid of the sad lost woman he remembered. She looked powerful. His phone began to vibrate violently on the nightstand. It was Marcus Sterling, Ethan's new father-in-law. He answered, his mouth suddenly dry. "Did you see it?" Marcus's voice wasn't congratulatory. It was a low, dangerous growl. "Marcus, I just saw it. I had no idea." "You had no idea," Marcus roared, his voice cracking with fury. "Your ex-wife, the woman you lived with for 5 years. The woman you told me was an unambitious academic who couldn't finish a thesis, just sold a piece of technology for over $1 billion. Technology, I might add, that directly competes with 2 of my biggest port and shipping investments. I swear, Marcus, she was doing nothing. She was living off the settlement I gave her." "The settlement you gave her?" Marcus laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "You gave her $5 million and she turned it into $1 billion too. And you fool, you let her walk away. You didn't even know what you had. I didn't form an alliance with you for your charm, Ethan. I did it because I thought you were smart. A shark. I thought you could identify assets. It turns out you can't even identify the asset sleeping in your own bed." The line went dead. Ethan stared at the phone, his mind reeling. The smug satisfaction of the evening had curdled into a thick, choking dread. He looked around the opulent hotel suite at the new life he had been so proud of, and it suddenly felt cheap and fragile. Tiffany emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a silk robe. "Who was that, darling? Is everything okay?" He couldn't meet her eyes. He just held out the phone, the screen still glowing with the news article and Ilara's powerful face. Tiffany read it, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rising higher and higher, the color drained from her cheeks. When she finally looked up at him, her expression wasn't one of sympathy or support. It was a look he had never seen before on her face, a cold, calculating assessment, a look of profound disappointment. $1 billion, Ethan," she whispered, her voice laced with ice. "The woman you called your starter wife." In that moment, Ethan Hayes understood. He hadn't just lost a ghost from his past. He had lost his future. He had mocked Ilara for her Act 1, but the terrifying reality dawning on him was that his own main event had just been exposed as a cheap imitation. The real show was just beginning, and he wasn't even invited. The sun was beginning to rise over New York City, casting long shadows across his perfect suite. For Ilara Vance, it was the dawn of a new empire. For Ethan Hayes, it was the beginning of a long, dark night. The news of the Ethelred Vance deal hit the financial world like a thunderclap. By Monday morning, it was the lead story on Bloomberg, Forbes, and TechCrunch. The Ghost of Silicon Valley: How Alara Vance Built a Billion-Dollar Company in Secret. The narrative was intoxicating. A brilliant woman pushed out of the spotlight reemerges with a world-changing technology. Her backstory with Ethan and Apex Solutions, once a footnote, was now being re-examined with a critical new lens. Anonymous sources from their old company began talking to reporters, hinting that many of Apex's visionary ideas had originated with Alara. The story was no longer just about a tech deal. It was about a reckoning. For Alara, the days that followed were a whirlwind. She was working out of a temporary office in the Ethelred Tower that was larger than her entire San Jose apartment. She had a team of lawyers, publicists, and assistants. Julian Croft was true to his word. He gave her complete autonomy, and his teams provided unwavering support, handling the tidal wave of media and logistics so she could focus on integrating Chimera. She did one and only one interview. It was with a respected female journalist from the Wall Street Journal. She spoke eloquently about technology, about the future of global commerce, and about the passion that drove her. When the journalist gently broached the subject of her past, Alara's answer was a masterclass in understated power. "I believe every experience, good or bad, is a data point," she said calmly. "You can either let it be a corrupted file that slows down your system, or you can use it to learn and build a more robust, efficient operating model for your own life." I chose the latter. She never mentioned Ethan's name. She didn't have to. The world read between the lines, and the verdict was unanimous. For Ethan, the world was shrinking. The fawning texts from his friends had been replaced by an awkward silence. Business associates who once clamored for his attention were now screening his calls. At his own VC firm, his partners looked at him with a mixture of pity and contempt. He had been their rainmaker, the man with the golden gut. Now he was the man who had fumbled a billion-dollar opportunity. He was a laughingstock. The hardest blow came from his own father-in-law. Marcus Sterling summoned him to his cavernous office overlooking the harbor. "The board is concerned," Marcus said, not even bothering to offer Ethan a seat. "My port holdings have dropped 8% since the announcement. My competitors are already in talks with Ethelred. Your ex-wife's little project is going to cost me hundreds of millions before it even fully launches." "Marcus, we can fight this." Ethan pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "We can build a competitor. I know how she thinks, I know her weaknesses." Marcus cut him off with a cold, dismissive wave of his hand. "You know her weaknesses. You didn't even know her strengths. You're a liability to me now, Ethan. The story has made you look like a fool, and by extension it makes me look like a fool for bringing you into the family, into my business. The optics are a disaster." The implication was clear. The powerful alliance was fractured. Ethan was no longer a partner. He was a problem to be managed. His home life was no better. The warmth and adoration from Tiffany had vanished, replaced by a brittle politeness. The life he had married into was predicated on the image of power and success. Now that his image was tarnished, he could feel the foundations of his new marriage cracking. One evening he found her in their walk-in closet, a sea of designer bags and shoes, staring at her phone. She was on Alara's new verified Instagram profile. It was mostly professional pictures of her new team, architectural renderings of the Ethelred Logistics campus. The latest post was a simple photo of Alara and Julian Croft standing beside a prototype of a quantum server deep in conversation. They looked like partners equals. "They say he's grooming her to be his successor," Tiffany said quietly, her voice flat. "They say Ethelred has never had a CEO of a division rise so fast." Can you imagine? Her Ethan felt a surge of irrational, bitter rage. "This is a fluke, Tiff. A one-hit wonder. She got lucky." Tiffany finally looked at him, her eyes cold and clear. "Did she? Ethan? Or was she brilliant all along and you were just too arrogant to see it? My father says the worst mistake a man can make is to underestimate the person who knows all his secrets. You didn't just underestimate her. You insulted her. In front of everyone." She turned back to her phone, dismissing him. The message was clear. He hadn't just been wrong. He had been a fool, and his foolishness had cost them. The status, the power, the admiration, it had all been tied to Alara, and he had thrown it all away. Desperate, Ethan started digging. He hired a private investigator to find dirt on Alara, on Julian Croft, on Ethelred. He was looking for a flaw, a vulnerability, something he could use to claw back some leverage. The investigator's report came back a week later, and it was devastatingly clean. Alara's life for the past 2 years had been nothing but work. Ethelred Global was a financial fortress utterly impenetrable. The report did contain one interesting tidbit, however. It was the address of her new residence, not a permanent home, but a corporate penthouse suite Ethelred had secured for her at the Mandarin Oriental. Driven by a toxic cocktail of fury, jealousy, and a sliver of pathetic hope that he could somehow reason with her, Ethan made a decision. He was going to see her. He was going to confront the ghost who had come back to haunt him, not realizing he was the one who was already dead and buried. The lobby of the Mandarin Oriental was a world of quiet, understated luxury. It was a place where power didn't need to shout. Ethan felt a prickle of sweat on his neck as he approached the concierge. His own bravado, which had carried him through boardrooms and investor meetings, felt hollow here. "I'm here to see Alara Vance," he said, trying to sound casual. The concierge, a woman with an unnervingly calm demeanor, glanced at her screen. "I'm sorry, sir, but Ms. Vance has a strict no-visitors policy unless they are on her pre-approved list. Your name is not on it." The casual rejection was more infuriating than an outright fight. "I'm her ex-husband," he said, his voice rising slightly. "Just tell her Ethan Hayes is here." The concierge's expression didn't flicker. "I can certainly pass along the message, sir, but I can't allow you to go up." Just as Ethan was about to argue, a calm voice cut through the air. "It's all right, Sarah. I'll take care of it." Alara stood by the elevator bank. She wasn't in a power suit or a designer dress. She was wearing simple black trousers and a soft gray cashmere sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore no makeup. She looked comfortable, relaxed, and utterly in control. The frantic, insecure energy radiating from Ethan was a stark contrast to her profound stillness. "Hello, Ethan," she said, her voice even and devoid of any emotion. "You shouldn't have come here." She led him not up to her suite, but to a small private lounge off the lobby. It was empty. They sat in armchairs placed on opposite sides of a low glass table. For a moment they just looked at each other. He was seeing a stranger. The last time he had seen her, she was a guest at his wedding, an object of his ridicule. Now she was on the cover of Wired magazine. "Ellie, He began, falling back on the old pet name. It sounded foreign and pathetic on his tongue. "It's Alara," she corrected him gently, but with the firmness of a closed door. He took a deep breath, shifting tactics. He tried for contrition. "Look, Alara, I came here to apologize. The toast. It was a stupid, drunken mistake. I was an idiot. I'm sorry." She simply nodded, waiting. She wasn't going to make this easy for him. "What you've done, it's incredible." He continued, his voice laced with a false sincerity that was almost painful to hear. "I always knew you had it in you. I always pushed you to be your best. This was too much." A small, humorless smile touched Alara's lips. "You pushed me, Ethan. You pushed me into a corner. You convinced me my ambitions were secondary to yours. You took my work, my ideas, and you built your Act 1 on my back. Don't rewrite history now. The official record is quite clear." His face flushed. The mask of contrition fell away, revealing the raw, desperate man beneath. "Fine, fine. You want to talk business? Let's talk business. That technology, Chimera, the foundational concepts, we talked about them. We talked about them over dinner in bed. Those were our ideas. I have a claim to it, Alara. A moral claim, if not a legal one. I helped shape you. I made you who you are. Elara leaned forward slightly, her calm demeanor finally cracking, not with anger but with something that looked like pity. Let me be very clear, Ethan, so there are no misunderstandings. You didn't shape me. You suppressed me. The best parts of me, the most brilliant parts, are the ones that survived in spite of you, not because of you. Chimera wasn't born from our dinner conversations. It was born in the silence of the house after you left. It was built with the money you thought was a payoff to make me disappear. It was fueled by every condescending word and every dismissive glance you ever gave me. You think you have a claim. You were the negative space, the absence that allowed the real work to begin. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart puncturing his ego, his denial, his entire sense of self. He stared at her speechless. He had come here expecting tears or anger or perhaps a negotiation. He was not prepared for this surgical, dispassionate dismantling of his reality. "What do you want?" he finally whispered, the fight gone from his voice. "What will it take to make you stop? Is this all revenge for the wedding?" Elara leaned back in her chair, and for the first time she laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, but it was genuine. It was the laugh of someone who had just heard the most absurd thing in the world. "Oh, Ethan, you still think this is about you." The wedding wasn't the cause. It was a catalyst. A final data point that confirmed a conclusion I had already reached. You mocked me, and in doing so, you severed the last sentimental wire that connected me to our past. You set me free. I should probably thank you for that. She stood up, the conversation clearly over. This isn't revenge, Ethan. Revenge is a transaction. It's a petty emotional exchange. This, she said, gesturing vaguely to the opulent hotel to the city outside, to her new life. This is a cosmic correction. The universe balancing the books. You don't factor into the equation at all anymore. She looked at him one last time, at the man who had once been her entire world. He looked small, defeated, a relic of a life she no longer lived. "The best thing you ever did for me was leave," she said softly. "The second best thing you did was show me in front of 100 people exactly who you are. Now I know. And now so does everyone else. Goodbye, Ethan." She turned and walked away, her footsteps silent on the thick carpet. She didn't look back. Ethan Hayes sat alone in the quiet lounge for a long time, the weight of her words crushing him. She hadn't come to destroy his new life. She had simply built a new one of her own, so vast and brilliant that it cast his entire existence into shadow. He wasn't her villain. He wasn't her rival. He was irrelevant. And that, he realized, was the most devastating defeat of all. 6 months later, Elara Vance stood behind a podium addressing the World Economic Forum in Davos. The audience was a sea of the world's most powerful people, heads of state, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and global thought leaders. She spoke about the future of AI and global infrastructure, and she held them all in rapt attention. She was no longer a ghost or a mystery. She was a titan. Ethelred Logistics, under her leadership, had already revolutionized shipping for a dozen major corporations. Chimera was everything she had promised, and more. She was respected, admired, and in complete command of her destiny. Julian Croft had become a mentor and a friend. He saw in her the same relentless drive he possessed, and he was, as Tiffany had heard, quietly grooming her for a future far beyond a single division. Her life was full. She worked hard, but she also traveled, reconnected with old friends from Stanford, and was even learning to sail. The anger and hurt that had once defined her were gone, replaced by a deep, abiding sense of peace and purpose. She rarely, if ever, thought of Ethan. The empire Ethan had married into, meanwhile, was in decline. Marcus Sterling's shipping businesses, unable to compete with the efficiency of Chimera, were forced into a series of painful mergers. His reputation as an untouchable titan took a severe hit. His powerful alliance with Ethan was formally dissolved when Tiffany Hayes quietly filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The marriage had lasted less than a year. Ethan Hayes was a pariah. His venture capital firm bought out his partnership at a fraction of its former value, eager to remove the stain of his public humiliation. He was a cautionary tale told in hushed tones at Silicon Valley bars, the man who had gold in his hands and threw it in the trash. He lost the wife, the father-in-law, the career, and the reputation. He was left with nothing but his money, which suddenly felt like a very small consolation. The last time anyone saw him, he was at a mid-tier tech conference in Austin, trying to pitch a new idea to a group of young investors who barely paid him any mind. He looked tired and haunted, a man forever living in the shadow of the empire he had let slip through his fingers. One clear, cold evening, Alara was in her office, her real office now a stunning corner space on the 80th floor of the Ethelred Tower. She was looking out the vast window at the endless tapestry of city lights below. It was a view that signified power, success, and ambition. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Ben, her first programmer, the kid who had worked with her above the laundromat. He had sent her a link to a society blog. The headline read, "Where Are They Now? The Wreckage of the Hayes-Sterling Wedding." It had a photo of Ethan from the wedding grinning smugly next to a recent haggard-looking paparazzi shot. Alara looked at the photos for a moment. She felt no anger, no triumph, not even a flicker of satisfaction. She felt nothing at all. He was just a data point from a previous version of her operating system long since patched and updated. She deleted the message without a second thought and turned back to the window. She wasn't looking down at the past. She was looking out towards the horizon, towards the infinite shimmering possibilities of the future she was building. Her future. And it was brilliant. Alara Vance's story is a powerful reminder that your value is never ever defined by someone else's opinion. It's a testament to the fact that the ultimate revenge isn't loud or angry. It's the quiet, undeniable hum of your own success. She turned humiliation into motivation and heartbreak into a billion-dollar enterprise, not to prove her ex-husband wrong, but to prove herself right. Her journey shows us that sometimes the worst betrayals can become our greatest liberations, clearing the path for us to build the life we were always meant to live. It reminds us that your past does not have to be your prison. If you were inspired by Alara's incredible journey from the shadows to the boardroom, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their potential is limitless, and subscribe to our channel. We have so many more incredible stories like this to share with you. Click that notification bell so you never miss a single one. Thanks for listening.
Cheating ex wants his pregnant wife back, but she's already living the dream with a millionaire. Marissa Lewis once believed her marriage to Daniel was unbreakable. She stood by him through sleepless nights and endless bills, all to chase a humble dream of stability. Yet everything shattered when she caught Daniel in the arms of another woman. Pregnant and heartbroken, Marissa fled the life she had known. But fate had other plans. She soon crossed paths with Gregory Ashford, a self-made millionaire whose gentle spirit and lavish world offered her safety and hope. Now, as Marissa's belly grows and she basks in a dream life of compassion and luxury, Daniel reappears unexpectedly, begging for another chance. What follows will set tongues wagging and hearts racing. Marissa Lewis never considered herself a hopeless romantic. She'd grown up in a modest suburb near Houston, Texas, the eldest of 3 siblings in a family that prized hard work over daydreams. When she first met Daniel at a local community college, he seemed the perfect partner, charismatic, kind-hearted, quick to laugh. Their wedding, though small, felt like the start of a shared adventure, built on love and the promise of forging a better life. For a year or two, that promise held strong. Daniel toiled as an assistant manager at a local hardware store, working weekends to climb the ranks. Marissa found a job at an administrative office, juggling paperwork and phone calls with an unwavering sense of duty. They pulled paychecks to cover rent and chipped away at Daniel's student loans. The big dream was eventually buying a little house, perhaps starting a family in a quiet cul-de-sac. But not all illusions can withstand harsh reality. Over time, Daniel's restlessness grew. He'd come home late, complaining about the store's slow promotions or coworker politics. He yearned for more money, more excitement. Marissa, naturally grounded, reassured him that patience would pay off. Unfortunately, Daniel's ambition took a dark turn. The first sign was a sly phone call. Marissa overheard a hushed conversation that ended with a suspicious "I miss you too." She brushed it aside, telling herself it must be an old friend. But soon, Daniel's late nights multiplied. His phone screen seemed always flipped down when Marissa entered the room. A swirl of dread gnawed at her heart, though she forced a smile, telling herself she should trust her husband. The final straw hit like a punch to the gut. Marissa returned home early one Saturday, a day she was meant to be out with her sister. She found Daniel and a woman named Andrea entangled on the sofa. The shock knocked the breath from her lungs. She stood there, frozen, as Daniel sprang up, stammering half-formed excuses. Andrea, gathering her coat, muttered a dismissive apology. The moment seared itself into Marissa's memory, her husband's face alight with guilt, the stench of betrayal heavy in the air. In that instant, love burned to ash. No explanation could mend the rift. Marissa recalled Daniel's pleas afterward, how he swore it was a fling, a stupid mistake. But the truth was out. He had chosen excitement and lust over their vows. Marissa's heartbreak was magnified by another concealed secret only a week prior. She'd learned she was pregnant. Now, that precious news felt like a cruel trick from fate. Unsure how to salvage trust, Marissa packed a suitcase and left. Pride and sorrow warred in her chest as she navigated a new, lonely horizon. She took refuge in a tiny motel first, then sought help from a friend in Houston. She refused to answer Daniel's calls, his frantic texts insisting he'd change. For her unborn child's sake and her own dignity, Marissa knew she had to stand firm. Little did she realize that across the city, a chance encounter with a self-made millionaire named Gregory Ashford was about to redraw the map of her life. Daniel's betrayal was only the prologue to a story neither of them could predict, one that would test the boundaries of regret, redemption, and the unexpected power of second chances. Marissa found temporary sanctuary in a cozy one-bedroom that belonged to her childhood friend, Tanya, a single professional who traveled often for work. Tanya offered the place rent-free while away in Europe. Marissa jumped at the lifeline. Her meager savings couldn't stretch far, not with a baby on the way. Despite the heartbreak, she adopted a steady routine. Each morning, she swallowed her pain, busied herself with job applications, determined to secure a future for her child. By afternoon, she ventured out for long walks, letting the Houston sunshine warm her shoulders. The baby's presence in her belly was a solace. Each fluttering movement reminded her she wasn't alone. During one such outing, she ambled through the local farmer's market. Amid stalls of fresh produce and artisan crafts, she chanced upon an older gentleman named Mr. Caldwell. He'd once been a neighbor of her parents, recognized her, and struck up conversation. As they chatted, a passing mention of a philanthropic event for local businesses emerged. Mr. Caldwell insisted Marissa attend, claiming the networking might help her find a stable job. Feeling she had little to lose, Marissa agreed. She'd always disliked formal events, but necessity overruled reluctance. A few days later, wearing a simple dress that fit her blossoming figure, she arrived at the charity gala hosted in a swanky downtown ballroom. She felt out of place among the swirl of cocktails and expensive suits. Still, she pressed a polite smile, determined to hand out resumes or glean any career tips. And that's when she spotted him, Gregory Ashford, the entrepreneur who'd rocketed to success with a series of tech startups in Dallas before branching into real estate across Texas. He was known in local circles for his philanthropic initiatives, a quiet, unassuming man in his early 40s who had an uncanny knack for turning modest ventures into gold. Marissa recognized him from a magazine profile where he'd been lauded as the Texas mogul with a heart of gold. She watched from a distance, curious but not expecting to approach. Fate had other ideas. As she navigated the crowd, her foot snagged on a loose carpet edge, sending her stumbling. In an almost cinematic moment, a strong arm reached out to steady her. She looked up, heart pounding, to find Gregory himself smiling kindly. "Careful," he said. "These floors can be tricky." Embarrassment flooded her cheeks. "Thank you. I'm sorry. Clumsy me." He chuckled softly, eyes warm. "No harm done. You're pregnant? Are you feeling all right?" She nodded, blinking away tears of humiliation. "Yes, about 4 months along. Just. Not used to heels, I guess." He gently guided her to a nearby seat, offering water. "Let me guess, new to these big events." She managed a wry smile. "Is it that obvious?" Thus began the conversation that lasted the entire evening. She told him bits about her desire for stable work, her uncertain future. He listened intently, not once prying for details about her personal heartbreak. By night's end, she realized she'd found a rare soul who seemed genuinely interested in helping, not judging. When the gala ended, Gregory insisted on seeing her safely home, ensuring she navigated the sidewalks without further tumbles. Marissa, wary of rich men after Daniel's fiasco, felt torn, yet something about Gregory's understated kindness chipped at her defenses. She waved him off with a grateful nod, never guessing that this single encounter was the opening note in a new symphony of her life, one that would overshadow the heartbreak Daniel inflicted. Within days, Gregory contacted Marissa again, having secured her number from Mr. Caldwell. He proposed a meeting at a quaint cafe downtown, away from the prying eyes of the upper crust. Over mugs of fragrant tea, Gregory explained a position in his foundation, an administrative role overseeing community outreach projects, perfect for someone with her skill set. He offered a modest yet stable salary, flexible hours, mindful of her pregnancy. The generosity floored her. Marissa had begun to settle into the routine of working at Gregory's foundation. The office was welcoming, and Gregory himself remained kind and professional, never crossing any boundaries. But one evening, as she unpacked some books in her new home, she stumbled upon an old leather-bound journal tucked away in a drawer. She hesitated, knowing it wasn't her place to pry, but something about the worn edges and the initials EL embossed on the cover made her curious. Flipping through the pages, she found handwritten notes in an elegant script. They weren't business records or schedules, they were letters, never sent. The words were filled with longing, apologies, and regret. "I should have fought harder for us. I built an empire, but I lost what mattered most." The entries ended abruptly, as if the writer had given up on writing or on hope itself. The next morning, Marissa cautiously approached Gregory in his office, holding the journal. "I found this while unpacking," she said. "I wasn't snooping, I promise." Gregory stared at the journal for a long moment before exhaling. "You weren't supposed to see that." His voice was softer than usual, tinged with an emotion she hadn't heard before. "Who is EL?" she asked gently. He hesitated before answering. "Eleanor Lawson, my ex-fiancée." Marissa sat down, sensing this was something he needed to share. "I was engaged once, years ago," he admitted. "She was the love of my life, or at least I thought she was. But I got caught up in work. I kept choosing my career over our relationship, promising I'd have more time for her one day. Eventually, she stopped believing me. She walked away, and by the time I realized what I had lost, it was too late." His fingers traced the edge of the journal. "I threw myself into philanthropy, trying to fix other people's lives, maybe to atone for not fixing my own." He looked up at Marissa, a wry smile on his lips. "And then I met you." A warmth spread through her chest. He wasn't just a generous businessman. He was a man who had known heartbreak, who had suffered the consequences of misplaced priorities. For the first time, she felt truly safe with him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly, suspecting pity. He shook his head. "I help promising people find their footing. You're clearly capable. You just need a chance. If you dislike it, you can walk away. No hard feelings." She accepted, heart brimming with gratitude and a flicker of hope. The next weeks sped by in a rewarding blur. At the Foundation's office, Marissa thrived, handling communications for local charities. She found a sense of purpose that had felt impossible after Daniel's betrayal. Even better, Gregory's gentle mentorship and unwavering support made each day less daunting. Marissa had never been comfortable with public speaking. But when Gregory asked her to introduce the Foundation's new outreach program at a gala, she found herself standing in front of a microphone, heart hammering. She took a deep breath and began. "A year ago, I was lost. I had no job, no home, and no idea how I would raise my child alone. But one act of kindness changed everything." The audience hushed, eyes locked on her. She spoke about resilience, about rebuilding a life from the ashes of heartbreak, about the importance of giving people second chances, not just in love, but in life. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Gregory, standing nearby, clapped the loudest. Later that night, as they left the gala, he smiled at her. "You know," he said, "I think you've found your calling." And maybe, Marissa realized, he was right. Her belly grew, and with it, a sense of calm. She still had nightmares about Daniel's infidelity, but each time, Gregory's quiet friendship anchored her. They shared lunches, laughing over funny anecdotes from project visits. Sometimes, he'd invite her for dinner at a casual eatery, nothing fancy, always ensuring she felt comfortable. The tabloids, fixated on bigger celebrity fish, paid them no heed. Marissa relished the privacy. Over time, their bond deepened beyond professional respect. Gregory's empathy extended to shopping for baby items. He once shyly presented her with a small stuffed teddy bear, stating every child should have a faithful companion. She accepted with an emotional smile, not missing the care in his eyes. She began to suspect he felt more than mere benevolence, but it was unspoken. The notion both thrilled and frightened her. She wasn't sure she could handle romance after Daniel's betrayal. Then came the day Gregory offered her a new living arrangement. He had a property across town, spacious, secure, with staff on site. He insisted it was vacant and that she should stay free of rent. "Let me help you have a stress-free environment for the baby," he said softly. Torn between pride and practicality, Marissa eventually conceded, her finances still shaky. She moved in, feeling a mixture of amazement and apprehension at the plush surroundings. Under that roof, her daily routine blossomed into a dreamlike, calm morning walks in the manicured garden, working on foundation projects from a cozy home office, receiving checkups with top-tier doctors courtesy of Gregory's connections. Meanwhile, their relationship tiptoed a thin line between close friendship and budding affection. She was no fool. She recognized the warmth in Gregory's gaze, the protective way he hovered, ensuring she never felt alone or overwhelmed. But even as she settled into this newfound peace, a small voice inside whispered, "What if Daniel returns? What if her heart never truly heals from the past?" She pushed those worries aside, focusing on the present, because for once in her life she felt safe, valued, and on the brink of a happiness she hadn't dared to imagine after heartbreak. It happened on a muggy afternoon, months after Marissa had moved into Gregory's property. She was strolling near a local grocery store, having taken a break from her usual driver, craving a bit of normalcy. Her baby bump was now unmistakable. Nearly 8 months along, people greeted her politely, some even offering compliments about the joyous event soon to come. Then a voice behind her froze her in place. "Marissa, is that really you?" She turned, heart lurching. "Daniel." He stood a few paces away, looking older, thinner perhaps, but those familiar eyes burned with astonishment. She blinked, adrenaline surging. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" He approached, gaze drifting to her pregnant belly, shock transmuting into confusion. "You're pregnant? God, you look wow." Her pulse hammered. She forced composure. "Yes. It's been months since we parted ways. Life moves on." He raked a hand through his hair. "I tried to call you, sent messages. You changed your number, blocked me on social media. I had no clue." Marissa braced herself, pushing aside painful memories. "We ended things, remember?" I had nothing left to say. She turned to leave, but he stepped forward. "Wait, please. Let me speak, just for a minute." His voice held a desperation that tugged at her heartstrings, despite everything. She sighed. 1 minute, she conceded silently. They found a quiet bench at the store's entrance. He exhaled heavily. "Marissa, the first messed up I know. I regret that affair Andrea meant nothing. My job was stressful. I felt trapped. But that's no excuse. I realize now how badly I hurt you." She stared, unmoved. "It's too late, Daniel. I gave you so many chances to fix things before you cheated." Her hand hovered protectively over her belly. "And now I have someone else in my life. Someone who respects me." A flicker of pain crossed his features. "I heard rumors you were living with some rich guy, Gregory Ashford, right? Everyone in Houston knows about him. Are you just using him as a rebound?" Her anger flared. "Don't you dare. He gave me a job, a place to live, an unwavering kindness. Something you withheld." She paused, tears stinging. "And for your information, this baby is not yours." She spat the words, though they also carried a pang of sadness. Once they dreamed of children together. Daniel's shoulders slumped. "I guess that's final then. You've replaced me with a millionaire." Marissa clenched her jaw. "I replaced you with self-respect, Daniel. The millionaire part is incidental. I'm not planning to let you worm your way back into my life." He swallowed, eyes flicking to the baby bump again. "Maybe I still love you, Marissa. People make mistakes. Could you at least consider giving me a chance?" She rose from the bench, trembling with anger. "Love means not breaking vows for cheap thrills. You gave that away. So no, I can't. Now, stay out of my life." He called after her as she walked away, tears pooling in her eyes. She didn't look back. The swirl of old hurts reminded her how far she'd come. But an uneasy feeling clung to her, suspecting Daniel might not relent so easily. The final battle for her future, her happiness, had begun, with Daniel's reappearance signaling the unraveling of any serenity she'd found. In the days following that chance encounter, Daniel's presence loomed over Marissa's thoughts like a thundercloud. She confided in Gregory about the incident, uncertain how he'd react. Calmly, Gregory listened, jaw tensing at mentions of Daniel's cheating. "Do you think he'll cause trouble?" he asked quietly. Marissa shrugged, hugging her belly. "I'm not sure. He sounded regretful, but also resentful about me living with you." She paused, meeting Gregory's gaze. "I never intended for it to become public knowledge that I'm with a millionaire." "I don't want drama," Gregory nodded. "If he tries to bother you, we'll handle it. You deserve peace." He left the matter at that, but Marissa sensed an undercurrent of protectiveness in him. Meanwhile, Daniel was far from giving up. He began sending her flowers, apologetic notes, even leaving voicemails that toggled between contrite and pleading. At first, she ignored them. Yet when one of his calls implied he wanted to see her just to talk, she texted him firmly, "We have nothing to discuss. Please respect my wishes." Still, he showed up at the Foundation's office one afternoon, waiting in the lobby to catch a glimpse of her. Flustered employees recognized him from old Facebook pictures Marissa once shared. She emerged from her desk, aghast, "Daniel, this is my workplace. You can't just appear here." He spread his arms, voice choked. "I had to. You're shutting me out. I want to fix what I broke. I can't stand the idea of you having a child with someone else, living happily while I'm miserable." She scowled, mustering calm. "Your misery is your doing, Daniel. You made choices." She turned to lead him aside, not wanting a scene. "I appreciate that you're sorry, but it's too late. I'm done." He slumped, eyes wild with regret. "I can change. I have changed. Just give me a chance, let me prove it." Marissa closed her eyes, remembering the heartbreak of discovering him with Andrea. She recalled all the nights of waiting, the betrayal cutting her deeply. "No, Daniel, I can't go through that again." She tried to walk away, but he grabbed her wrist. "So you'd prefer a man who only loves you for show? For pity? He's a millionaire, he can do better." "Don't you see you're out of your league?" Rage flared in her chest. "How dare you? Gregory values me as a person." "Something you never truly did." She snatched her arm free, ignoring Daniel's protests. Then security guard arrived, escorting Daniel out. The entire office buzzed with gossip. That night, as Marissa recounted the incident to Gregory at home, tears welled in her eyes. "I'm so tired of this. I just want to move forward." Gregory touched her shoulder gently. "You will, but maybe we need to be more proactive about ensuring your safety. Let me assign a discreet security detail for you, just in case." Though uncomfortable with the idea, she nodded, realizing Daniel's desperation might escalate. Her baby was priority. And while it pained her to see Daniel unraveling, she recognized they were far beyond reconciliation. The cracks in their marriage had grown into a chasm neither bridging with empty apologies nor wealth could fix. Daniel's repeated attempts to contact Marissa drew attention from local tabloids sniffing for scandal. One minor gossip blog posted a snippet. Rumors swirl that pregnant ex-wife of tech billionaire Gregory Ashford's living partner was spotted in a tense argument with her former husband. Is trouble brewing in paradise? Marissa cringed at the sensational headline. She was not Gregory's living partner, but the media rarely worried about accuracy. Gregory, unbothered by trifling gossip, told his PR team to keep silent. "We have bigger priorities," he told Marissa calmly. "Let them speculate." Yet the media speculation triggered a fresh wave of scrutiny. Paparazzi occasionally loitered near Gregory's property, snapping photos. One day, they captured Marissa stepping out with her baby bump, escorted by a security detail. The next morning's tabloids splashed images with sensational captions. "Ashford's baby mama." "Mystery surrounds pregnant woman's ex-husband in the wings." Mortified, Marissa worried about her professional credibility at the foundation. She vented to Gregory one evening, "I hate that people are framing me as some gold digger or that my ex-husband is stirring drama. I just want a normal life." Gregory brushed aside a lock of her hair, eyes gentle. "I understand. Let me reassure you, no matter what the press says, your job is secure. You've done stellar work and I trust you wholeheartedly." Marissa exhaled relief. Despite the swirl of negativity, Gregory's unwavering support buoyed her. She realized how drastically life had changed once. She was scraping by in heartbreak, now living in comfort with a man of quiet compassion. She felt a mixture of gratitude and guilt, recalling how Daniel once had her heart. Could she have prevented the meltdown if she'd recognized Daniel's restlessness earlier? As the gossip raged, Daniel seemed to feed off it, painting himself as a wronged spouse in certain social media circles. He posted cryptic statuses, implying he was fighting for the love of my life. Some netizens gobbled it up, while others ridiculed him for past cheating. The fiasco made Marissa's phone buzz incessantly, with intrusive queries from old acquaintances. One particularly rough morning, she found Daniel waiting across from Gregory's gates. He brandished an envelope, claiming it contained proof he'd changed. She refused to read it, swiftly heading inside. The guard shooed him away. Later, curiosity nudged her to glance at its contents. She found a rambling letter about how he'd ended the affair with Andrea, sought therapy, rediscovered God, etc. But nowhere did he acknowledge the heartbreak of her pregnancy. Nowhere did he mention how he'd remedy the trust he obliterated. The letter only reaffirmed her decision. Daniel might be remorseful, but the scars ran too deep. She penned a curt reply. I respect your journey, but it doesn't involve me. I've moved on. Please do the same. And so, in the swirl of media speculation, Daniel's desperation, and Gregory's calm support, Marissa stood firm. The baby's due date loomed, bringing a sense of finality once that child arrived. Any illusions about returning to Daniel would vanish. She was forging a new future, scandal or not, with or without the shadow of her ex-husband. The next act in this drama was about to unfold, culminating in a showdown nobody could predict. As Marissa's pregnancy approached its 8th month, she found herself waging an internal battle. Though she despised Daniel's betrayal, her memories weren't all tainted. Late-night recollections of simpler times when Daniel would surprise her with homemade dinners or spontaneously dance with her in their tiny living room snuck into her thoughts. She questioned if the new life with Gregory, while idyllic, was built on love or gratitude. Her confusion peaked one evening when Daniel managed to corner her at a local prenatal yoga class. She'd gone alone, craving some independence. The session ended, and as she stepped out onto the sidewalk, Daniel appeared, panting from a jog. Marissa, please, just 1 minute, he pleaded. She almost turned to leave, but something in his voice, the rawness, made her pause. What do you want, Daniel? She asked wearily. He swallowed, tears gleaming in his eyes. I can't get you out of my head. I've done everything to fix my life. I ended the affair, cut ties with shady friends, started therapy. I've changed, I swear. I want to be there for you, for the baby, even if it's not mine. Marissa's heart clenched. Daniel, you don't owe me or this baby anything. I'm with Gregory now, he's supporting me. Daniel pressed a hand over his chest. But do you love him, or do you love the stability he offers? We had real love once. That doesn't just vanish. She blinked tears away. The truth was complicated. She had genuine affection for Gregory, but it was overshadowed by caution, her trust scarred by Daniel's betrayal. You lost your right to call it love the day I found you with Andrea, she said, bitterness lacing her tone. He grimaced. I know. But can't people change? Emotionally spent, Marissa exhaled. Even if you have changed, that doesn't erase what you did. We're divorced for a reason. Yet as he walked her to her car, a small part of her felt old familiar pangs, memories of their simpler days, the ring of his laughter. She found her resolve wobbling. Daniel noticed, pressing further. Let me show you I can do better. She broke away, voice trembling. Stop it. I'm pregnant with another man's child. You're not part of this. Accept it. She slid into her car, slamming the door, tears threatening to blind her as she drove away. That night, she returned to Gregory's property, disheartened and confused. She barely managed a polite greeting before excusing herself to her bedroom. Gregory, concerned, knocked gently, but she feigned fatigue. She lay awake, replaying Daniel's words, cursing herself for the pang of sympathy. She knew Daniel was manipulative, but a piece of her still reeled from their shattered love. In the darkness, she wondered, am I truly prepared to commit my future to Gregory? Or is Daniel's second chance feasible? Anxiety warred with logic, overshadowing the innocence of the unborn child, stirring within her. Tomorrow, she'd have to confront these tangled emotions, because time was running out, and once the baby arrived, there'd be no easy reversion to the past. Marissa's internal turmoil didn't go unnoticed. Gregory sensed her restlessness, the brief flickers of tears in her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. One evening after dinner, He guided her to a quiet sitting room overlooking the property's moonlit garden. They settled on a love seat, the night's hush enveloping them. "Marissa," he began gently, "I can tell you're unsettled. Please be honest with me. Is Daniel's reappearance affecting your feelings?" Her eyes darted away, shame coloring her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I know you've done so much. I sometimes question if I'm truly over him, or if I'm just clinging to memories. It's confusing." Gregory breathed in, steadying himself. "I understand heartbreak doesn't vanish overnight, but I need to ask, do you see a future with me, or are you unsure?" She swallowed thickly. "Gregory, you've been my rock. I do care about you deeply. But I'm scared. We've never labeled this relationship. It's been so sweet, yet overshadowed by my painful past. And now, Daniel wants back in, claiming he's changed." Gregory's gaze flickered with hurt, but also compassion. "I can't pretend I'm happy about Daniel's attempts. But I won't force you to choose me out of gratitude or guilt. I want you to be certain." Tears welled in her eyes. "You deserve better than my confusion. I never expected to find this comfort after my marriage collapsed. My heart's in 1,000 pieces." He reached for her hand, voice low. "Let me give you something. Not an ultimatum, just a confession of how I feel." He inhaled, trembling. "I love you, Marissa. It's not pity or fleeting attraction. It's real. I can't imagine my life without you or this baby, even though it's not mine by blood. Let me be a father figure, a partner, if you'll let me." Emotion crashed over her. She wept silently, touched by his sincerity. "Gregory, I think I love you too, in a way that feels safer, more genuine than anything I had with Daniel. But I'm terrified of making the wrong choice." He squeezed her hand. "Take your time. You don't have to decide tonight. But know I'm here, ready to build a life with you. If Daniel's part of your heart, talk to him. See if closure is possible." He paused, eyes glinting with a tender acceptance. "I won't stand in your way as long as you're truly happy." Her tears spilled, gratitude and heartbreak mingling. She'd never known such selfless devotion. In that moment, she realized that Gregory's love was not controlling or resentful, but open-handed. That knowledge both comforted and frightened her. She nodded, unable to speak, and he drew her into a gentle embrace. They stayed like that, the hush of the night broken only by her muffled sobs. The baby gave a little kick, as if urging her forward. She clung to Gregory, understanding that real love could exist without demands. But the final resolution with Daniel still loomed. She had to face him once more, if only to bury the ghost of their broken union. Fate aligned a final confrontation. Marissa decided to meet Daniel in a public park near the old neighborhood they once called home. She told Gregory she needed closure and would handle it. He didn't love the idea but respected her autonomy. On a sunny afternoon, Marissa arrived at the park, heart pounding. Daniel waited by a wooden bench, eyes brightening when he saw her. She noticed he wore a new jacket, haircut neat, as if trying to appear reformed. She approached, arms folded protectively over her bump. They exchanged awkward greetings. Daniel's voice trembled with emotion. "You look radiant. Pregnancy suits you." She forced a polite nod. "What did you want to talk about, Daniel? Let's keep this civil." He perched on the bench, exhaling heavily. "Marissa, I've spent months reflecting on how I destroyed us. I was immature, chasing cheap thrills. Losing you was the worst mistake of my life. I want you back. Even if the baby's not mine, I'll raise it as my own. I swear." Her throat tightened. "I appreciate you realize your fault. But love isn't about throwing away everything, then picking it up again at your whim. You betrayed me, and that betrayal changed me forever." His gaze flickered with desperation. "People can learn from mistakes. I have. I've started a new job, got a promotion. I'm stable now. We can start fresh." She felt anger stir. mingled with pity. You think a promotion wipes away infidelity. My heart shattered, Daniel. No job or apology can mend that instantly. Besides, I've moved on with someone else, Gregory. He's shown me kindness that you never did, not fully. Daniel winced. He's just a wealthy man dazzled by the idea of playing hero. He doesn't know our history like I do. She shook her head. He respects me, Daniel. That's all I've ever wanted. Her voice turned firm. I'm building a future with him. This baby, while not yours, deserves a stable father figure, which Gregory's willing to be. Daniel slumped, tears glinting in his eyes. So you're sure? You won't even consider me? Marissa's lip quivered. She recalled the fleeting good times, the intimacy they once shared. But the memory of betrayal overshadowed everything. I'm sure, she whispered. I hope you find peace, but I can't be part of your redemption story. He exhaled a ragged breath, chest heavy with regret. I guess that's it, then. Slowly he stood, searching her face one last time. I wish I could turn back time. I'm sorry, truly. She nodded, tears threatening. Goodbye, Daniel. He walked away, posture slumped, leaving her with a mixture of sorrow and relief. She rested a hand on her belly, inhaling the crisp park air. The final conversation had sealed it. Daniel was her past, a painful lesson in heartbreak. Her future glimmered with the promise of Gregory's unwavering devotion and her baby's bright tomorrow. Quietly she left the park, each step lighter. The drama for now had reached its end. All that remained was to embrace the life she'd chosen, free from the chains of an unfaithful ex and open to the gentle, steady love of a man who valued her entirely. 2 weeks later, Marissa's due date edged closer, her belly a symbol of renewal. She continued living with Gregory, their bond deepening daily. He'd begun to transition some of his responsibilities at the foundation, ensuring he'd be fully present once the baby arrived. Late one night, Marissa felt the first pangs of labor. Mild at first, they swiftly escalated into sharper contractions. Gregory awoke at her cry of pain, immediately switching into caretaker mode. He called the hospital, gathered the pre-packed bag, and helped her into the car. Her heart raced with both excitement and terror. This was it. The hospital staff recognized them. Gregory, known for philanthropic donations, was greeted with polite smiles, but the focus remained on Marissa's comfort. Hours of labor ensued, pain rolling in waves. Gregory stood by, offering ice chips, whispered encouragement, and a calm presence. She clutched his hand through each contraction, tears mixing with sweat. All the heartbreak and drama receded from her mind, replaced by the primal act of bringing life into the world. Finally, as dawn broke, a new cry split the hospital room's hush, a tiny, wailing baby. Marissa's chest flooded with relief and love. The doctor placed the newborn, a healthy baby boy, onto her chest. Overwhelmed, she wept, holding her child close. Gregory, tears shining in his eyes, gently touched the baby's soft cheek. Marissa locked eyes with Gregory, the magnitude of the moment overwhelming. "Thank you," she whispered, voice raw with emotion. He leaned in, pressing a tender kiss to her forehead. "No, thank you for letting me share this miracle," he replied. Later, in a quiet postpartum room, Marissa cradled her son while Gregory phoned the property staff to share the good news. The baby's tiny fingers curled around Marissa's thumb, and she felt an indescribable surge of maternal devotion. She named him Caleb, a nod to her grandfather who first taught her about steadfast love. Gregory returned, glancing at the baby with reverence. "He's perfect," he murmured. Marissa's heart warmed, seeing how genuine his emotion was. This was no fleeting sense of obligation. She recognized in his eyes the devotion of a father figure. While the world might label Gregory as just the millionaire caretaker, she saw the man who had woven himself into her life with kindness and understanding. As Caleb dozed, Gregory and Marissa briefly discussed plans, arranging a comfortable nursery back home, scheduling pediatric visits, balancing her eventual return to the foundation if she wished. The future felt bright, even though Daniel's shadowy presence had once threatened to disrupt them. She knew now, after that final park confrontation, that Daniel had relinquished his hold. She was free to love Gregory fully, to raise Caleb in a home devoid of mistrust and betrayal. In the hush of that hospital room, the new family, mother, child, and a man determined to be the father in every sense, found themselves at the dawn of a fresh chapter. The drama of an unfaithful past lay behind them, the promise of unconditional love stretched ahead. Over the following months, Marissa settled into a routine that felt like a dream. She resided with Gregory in his airy estate, a place that once seemed too grand, but now felt like a protective cocoon for her and baby Caleb. The staff, respectful and discreet, doted on the new arrival, ensuring Marissa had support but never intrusion. Morning sunrises found Gregory walking with Caleb in a stroller around the manicured grounds, letting Marissa catch a bit more rest. Lunchtime saw them sharing laughs, Gregory occasionally cradling Caleb while discussing foundation updates. Evenings, they'd cuddle in the living area, reading baby books or quietly sipping tea while Caleb slept. The synergy of their partnership anchored them in contentment. Public curiosity piqued. Of course, some tabloids attempted to label Marissa as the lucky woman snaring Ashford's fortune. Others, more kindly, praised Gregory's philanthropic heart, painting them as a charitable duo raising a child. Marissa learned to ignore the chatter. She found solace in seeing how Caleb thrived, healthy and secure, free from the tumult that once threatened to overshadow his birth. Each day, Gregory subtly invited Marissa to consider them a family, not just two coexisting adults. He never pressured her to reciprocate his love, but gently reminded her that his feelings ran deep. She, in turn, felt her walls crumble. She saw how Gregory unflinchingly embraced fatherhood for a child not biologically his. That act alone displayed a love more profound than she'd believed possible. By Caleb's 3-month mark, Marissa felt her heart fully rekindled. The bitterness she once harbored from Daniel's betrayal became a distant memory, replaced by a sense of wholeness. She never envisioned life could be this stable, this nurturing. Gregory was indeed the partner she needed, someone who listened, respected boundaries, and never let ambition overshadow affection. Occasionally, Daniel's name surfaced in her thoughts. She wondered if he'd truly changed or found someone else. Yet the pang was fleeting. She recognized that their chapter was conclusively over. As for Gregory, she realized that a piece of him still worried about stepping beyond caretaker into husband. She sensed it in his occasional hesitance about discussing the future. Perhaps he feared scaring her off. Finally, one starry night, after tucking Caleb into the nursery, Gregory led her to the garden. They strolled among fragrant blooms, the moonlight casting a silvery sheen. At a secluded arch, he paused, turning to face her, a gentle trembling in his voice. "Marissa," he said, "this life we're building, it's more than I dared hope for. I meant every word I said before. I love you. I want us to be a family in name and soul. Will you consider marriage?" "Not immediately, just. Let's start that conversation." She felt tears of joy brim, heart pounding. She recalled the heartbreak that once overshadowed everything. But looking into Gregory's earnest gaze, she realized that second chances at love do exist. "Yes," she whispered, stepping into his arms. "Let's talk about that. I'm ready." Marissa's yes wasn't a formal proposal acceptance, but an invitation to plan a future together, one shaped by mutual respect, grounded in the experiences that had shaped them. Over the weeks, they quietly explored the idea of marriage, with Marissa clarifying that she wanted a simple ceremony, free from the flashy pomp that once overshadowed her life with Daniel. Gregory wholeheartedly agreed. "I don't need a grand spectacle," he assured her. "Just close friends, some family, and a vow that this time, love endures." The phrase, "this time," struck both of them. They'd each known heartbreak her with Daniel, him with a previous relationship lost to misunderstandings. Now they approached love with deeper humility. They informed the foundation staff of their intentions, which earned broad smiles and subtle cheers. The tabloids caught wind, but with little detail, they could only speculate. Some spun romantic fairy tale narratives about the pregnant woman who found a millionaire. Others cynically predicted it wouldn't last. Marissa, supported by Gregory's unwavering calm, disregarded the noise. In a heartfelt chat one afternoon, Gregory told her of his own heartbreak and engagement broken years back because he'd been too consumed with business expansions. He confessed that helping Marissa had initially been an attempt at personal atonement, though it evolved into genuine admiration and then love. She found comfort in knowing they both carried scars from misguided priorities. It made their bond feel more authentic. Meanwhile, Daniel had gone silent. No more sudden appearances or letters. A mutual acquaintance told Marissa he'd moved to Dallas for a fresh start. She felt an odd mix of relief and pity, hoping he truly found redemption on his own path. She prayed that meant no final disruptions to her blossoming happiness. As time passed, baby Caleb thrived under the gentle routine of this new household. He giggled whenever Gregory swooped him into the air or read him silly bedtime stories. With every coo and laugh, Marissa's conviction solidified. She truly believed that letting Gregory in was the best decision for her child and for herself. Finally, on a warm Saturday, Gregory led her to the same orchard where they'd once visited on a foundation project. Beneath an ancient oak, he knelt this time with a simple ring he'd chosen carefully. No paparazzi, no staged glitz, just nature's hush, an orchard's sweet fragrance, and his sincere question, "Marissa, mother of my child in spirit, partner of my heart, will you marry me?" Her tears spilled freely. She nodded, voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Gregory, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, a modest band with a single diamond, a reflection of understated elegance, just like his love. As they embraced, the orchard seemed to whisper approval. This was no forced second chance. It was a new beginning, seeded by heartbreak, yet nurtured by genuine devotion. And so, with a gentle vow sealed under the oak's leafy canopy, they crossed from a life overshadowed by old betrayal into a realm of unshakable unity. The circle of heartbreak was closed. Marissa, once abandoned and pregnant, was now cherished and certain, forging a life with the millionaire who saw beyond her scars and into her true worth. A year later, the city buzzed with rumors that Gregory Ashford had quietly wed Marissa in a private ceremony at a countryside inn near Austin. Only close friends and a handful of relatives attended. The media tried to glean details, but the couple declined to share beyond a simple statement, "We joyfully celebrated our union among loved ones. We're grateful for privacy as we continue our philanthropic work and family life." In that small wedding, Marissa wore a flowing ivory gown. Caleb, toddling around at nearly a year old, served as their ring-bearer, eliciting laughter from the intimate gathering. With tears in their eyes, Marissa and Gregory exchanged vows that spoke of second chances, mutual respect, and unwavering commitment. The ring glinted on her finger, a symbol of a love rebuilt from the ashes of heartbreak. After the ceremony, they moved forward with philanthropic projects, more unified than ever. Marissa thrived in her role at the foundation, championing programs for single mothers, determined to help others who faced situations like hers. Gregory supported her with resources and moral backing, admiring her passion, As for Daniel, word reached Marissa that he'd remarried, or at least gotten engaged, to someone he met in Dallas. She felt relief, even a bit of happiness for him. Time had dulled the sting of his betrayal, replaced by gratitude for the growth and wisdom it forced upon her. She wished him no ill. He remained a distant memory from a life that once was. On a crisp autumn morning, Gregory, Marissa, and a playful toddler Caleb strolled through the orchard behind their newly built ranch house. The orchard, reminiscent of that fateful day Gregory proposed, was now part of their property, a testament to the merging of their personal and philanthropic lives. They walked hand in hand, watching Caleb squeal at fluttering leaves. Joy radiated in every step. Marissa gazed at her husband, warmth filling her chest. She thought of the tumultuous path that led here, Daniel's infidelity, her painful departure, the precarious months living in borrowed spaces, the chance meeting with a kind millionaire, the swirl of media drama, the final confrontation with Daniel, and the sweet acceptance of a man who proved wealth needn't overshadow love. It all coalesced into one truth. Life's darkest turns can lead to the brightest dawns if hearts remain open. Caleb fussed, so Gregory scooped him up. The toddler calmed at once, nestling contently. Marissa smiled, brushing a leaf from Caleb's soft hair. They continued walking, the orchard's canopy shimmering with golden sunlight. In that serene moment, they embodied a truth that no scandal or heartbreak could tarnish. Healing and love can blossom from even the deepest wounds. Marissa, once just the pregnant ex-wife of a cheating man, was now cherished by a partner who saw her strength, honored her dreams, and helped her rewrite her destiny in gentle, luminous strokes. The tumult of infidelity, heartbreak, and an unexpected pregnancy once threatened to consume Marissa's spirit. Yet, in her darkest hour, she found not only the courage to walk away, but also discovered a new path with the compassionate millionaire who saw her true worth. Daniel's remorseful pleas were no match for the profound love and respect Marissa built with Gregory, a man whose wealth was overshadowed by his genuine heart. The arrival of baby Caleb sealed their bond, proving that shattered vows can lead to brighter horizons when guided by hope, resilience, and unwavering support. Thank you for joining this compelling journey of betrayal, perseverance, and unexpected redemption. If Marissa's story of heartbreak turned to happiness stirred your heart, please hit the like button. Share this video with friends who believe in the power of second chances, and subscribe to our channel for more stories spotlighting life's dramatic twists and boundless possibilities. Your support empowers us to continue weaving tales of love's resilience, reminding us all that even in the aftermath of heartbreak, dreams can be rekindled and hearts can find a way to heal.